Hello, my rubber hearts. Today we are continuing our Toolbox series with a focus on the difference between BET and CTAB surface area measurements. In the previous episode, we introduced BET as total surface area and CTAB, which stands for cetyltrimethylammonium bromide, as a more realistic estimate of polymer-accessible surface. In this episode, we will define clearly what each method measures, how they differ, and when the distinction matters for rubber compounding and other fillers. First, the simplest definition. BET and CTAB are both surface area measurements, but they use different probe molecules, and that changes what surfaces they can reach. That's the whole game. BET is typically measured with nitrogen gas adsorption at low temperature. Nitrogen molecules are tiny. They can get into very fine roughnesses, small pores, narrow crevices, and internal surfaces that bigger molecules cannot access. When BET says this filler has 200 square meters per gram, it's telling you how much surface nitrogen can physically form a monolayer on. That's why BET is often called the total accessible surface. CTAB, on the other hand, uses a much larger probe molecule, cetyltrimethylammonium bromide. It's not a gas, it's a surfactant in liquid phase. CTAB molecules can't squeeze into every micropore that nitrogen can. They mainly cover the external surface and larger pores, in a way that's very relevant to rubber. CTAB tends to behave more like what a large organic molecule can realistically access. Polymer chains are far bigger than CTAB, but CTAB is still closer to polymer reality than nitrogen is. So the big concept is this. BET can see inside tiny pores and surface textures than CTAB can't. If a filler is porous, BET can be much higher than CTAB. If a filler is mostly non-porous and the surface is fairly open, BET and CTAB will be closer. Now let's talk about why that matters in real compounding. Reinforcement depends on how much effective contact the polymer can make with the filler surface. Nitrogen-accessible surface is not always polymer-accessible surface. If BET counts a lot of surface in pores that polymers cannot penetrate, that portion of surface won't contribute much to reinforcement. It might contribute to absorption of small molecules, moisture, curatives, silane, processing aids, or even cause higher oil demand, but it will not behave like active reinforcing area in the way you expect from the BET number alone. That is why CTAB often lines up better with how a filler behaves in rubber when porosity is high. It's not better in general, it's better for answering a different question. How much surface is realistically available to interact with large organic molecules? Here's a practical way to read the numbers. If a filler has a high BET and a much lower CTAB, it usually means one of two things. Either the filler has a lot of microporosity or very fine internal texture, or the surface is partially inaccessible to larger molecules because of pore size distribution. In real terms, that can mean the filler will show high absorption of small stuff, strong interactions with processing chemicals, and possibly higher compound viscosity than you would expect, but not necessarily the reinforcement level you would guess purely from BET. If BET and CTAB are close, that usually means most of the surface is open and external, so the total surface is closer to usable surface. In those cases, BET correlates more directly with reinforcement and polymer interaction. Silica is where CTAB is most often discussed in rubber because silica has a very significant porous structure and a chemistry that interacts strongly with coupling agents, moisture, and polar ingredients. That makes the BET versus CTAB gap meaningful. But the concept absolutely applies to other fillers, just not always with the same importance. For carbon black, the industry often uses BET-like surface area measurements and iodine absorption values as proxies for surface area. CTAB is less commonly used as the standard go-to in everyday carbon black selection because carbon black structure and aggregate morphology dominate many properties, and carbon black's porosity story is different. Carbon black has surface roughness and complex aggregates, but it's not porous in the same way as precipitated silica. You can still see differences between nitrogen surface area and larger molecule accessible surface, but in practice, the carbon black world usually leans on nitrogen surface area, iodine number, dBp adsorption, and dispersion behavior rather than CTAB as a routine spec. For precipitated silica, CTAB is more central because it helps separate surface that exists from surface that's accessible in a realistic way. And it correlates better with polymer interaction when microporosity is significant. It also helps technologists compare two silicas that have similar BET but behave differently in mixing and reinforcement. For alumina trihydrate, clays, calcium carbonate, talc, and similar mineral fillers, CTAB often isn't the first tool you reach for. These fillers are typically lower surface area, less microporous, and their performance is often dominated by particle size distribution, shape, and surface treatment rather than subtle differences in microaccessible surface area. BET can still be relevant for some treated grades or high surface variants, but CTAB is usually less informative because the inaccessible micropore surface issue is smaller and polymer filler interaction is weaker or driven more by coupling chemistry and morphology. Where CTAB style thinking becomes relevant again is with highly porous or high surface area fillers beyond silica, including some engineered oxides, activated minerals, and certain nanostructured fillers. Anytime the filler has meaningful microporosity or internal surface that a gas can reach, but a large molecule can't, you should expect BET and CTAB to diverge, and you should be cautious about treating BET as direct reinforcement surface. Now, let's get very specific about what can make BET and CTAB disagree, because this helps you interpret results instead of memorizing rules. The biggest drivers are pore size and surface topology. BET will count surfaces in pores down to the molecular scale. CTAB will ignore pores that are too small for the CTAB molecule to enter. So as microporosity increases, BET rises faster than CTAB. Surface chemistry can also affect the CTAB result because CTAB is a charged surfactant. It interacts with surface groups and can adsorb differently depending on pH, surface treatment, and ionic environment during the test. That means CTAB is not only size limited, it is also chemistry sensitive. BET is much less chemistry sensitive because nitrogen adsorption is mostly physical, not ionic. So what do the results mean for you as a technologist? BET is great for comparing total surface and for tracking fineness and overall activity potential. CTAB helps you estimate how much of that surface is realistically available to larger organic interaction and helps explain why two fillers with similar BET can behave differently in reinforcement, viscosity, and coupling demand. In practice, the most useful moment is when you see a mismatch. If you see high BET but relatively low CTAB, you should start thinking, this filler has a lot of internal surface that may not contribute directly to reinforcement, but it may still affect adsorption, cure chemistry, moisture sensitivity, and mixing. If you see BET and CTAB close together, you can more confidently use BET as a proxy for reinforcing surface. And to keep your mental model clean, don't treat CTAB as a replacement for BET. Treat it as a second axis. BET tells you how much surface exists. CTAB tells you how much surface behaves like it's accessible to large molecules. When you put them together, you can infer porosity and accessibility, and that's when the numbers stop being abstract. Until next time, stay elastic and stay curious.